The Justice Department has a task force that was formed to, quote, eradicate anti-Christian bias. Now, what does that mean? Well, apparently it's anti-Catholic. The Trump administration is planning for the elections this fall. It's starting to take shape. You know, back in the election of 2024, it was all about trans people. And there were all these stories and all these Republican-aligned groups that were yelling and screaming about trans people in sports and trans this and trans that. There was even a trans killer that they were trying to make a big deal about, you know, some person who was a criminal who was also trans. This time it looks like it's going to be Catholics, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, atheists, and agnostics. Kicking the Catholics out of the Easter service, for example, at the Pentagon, I think was kind of an opening shot across the bow. And then, apparently according to the press reports that I've seen, after that happened, the Vatican, well, it wasn't just that. It was, Trump's attack on Iran and then the Pope's attack on, implied attack on Trump for that, saying that Jesus doesn't embrace people, but instead, warriors, but instead says you have blood on your hands. And so in response to that, Trump had an undersecretary of state meet with the Vatican representative and threatened them with some 14th century papacy when the French, the Avignon papacy, this is when the French king basically militarily seized the Pope and moved the headquarters of the Catholic Church to France for a short while. Now, I'm no scholar of that time. I know very, very little about it, but that's what I've been able to glean from the news reports I've been reading. So anyhow, the Catholic Church and Donald Trump and the Trump administration, and thus the United States, are right now kind of on the outs. And the Pope has said that he's not even going to come to the United States as he was planning to come. So, it's just some wild stuff. So now we've got this new task force that was created. It was within the Justice Department, which is charged with enforcing our laws and rooting out bad guys. The Justice Department has a task force that was formed to, quote, eradicate anti-Christian bias. Now, what does that mean? Well, apparently it's anti-Catholic. Trump has for years claimed that Joe Biden isn't actually a Christian. And I don't think that was so much Trump's anti-Catholicism as it was just Trump lies about everything. Trump doesn't go to church. Joe Biden went to Mass every Sunday and always has. Joe Biden's faith is at the core of his being. He has always been, way beyond our first Catholic president, John Kennedy, who only occasionally went to church. This is at the core of Joe Biden's being. But Biden condemned the political extremism that provoked January 6th at the 2021 National Prayer Breakfast, and this enraged Trump and led him off on this tirade, saying that now they're claiming that the Biden administration engaged in, quote, anti-Christian bias. And what they're specifically, all freaked out about, and they're going to go after the Biden administration for, and again, this is set up for the election this November. Right, they're going to try and get the Christian vote out in droves. They're going to try and get all the pastors who are the televangelists, the evangelicals, the guys who are in it for the big bucks, right? The prosperity gospel preachers, the ones who have their private planes and their television networks and all this stuff. They're going to get all of them in there telling their parishioners, telling their congregations, vote Republican. We've got to keep the Republicans in office. We've got to prevent Donald Trump from getting impeached. So what they're doing is they're using this freedom of access to clinic entrances legislation. It was the FACE Act, Freedom of Access to Clinics. It was passed in 1994. You'll recall this was around the time there had been a bunch of abortion clinic bombings and several abortion doctors had been murdered George Tiller, probably the most famous because, repeatedly, actually it was multiple Fox hosts were going after him. Bill O'Reilly in particular, but there were others. And, some of the anti-abortion protesters were prosecuted under this law, under the FACE Act. And so when Trump came into office this time, last year, Trump pardoned several of these people who had been prosecuted, these anti-abortion terrorists. And so now we've got this draft of this report coming out of the Justice Department. The final draft is not done yet. But it suggests that this, number one, it's not just a Department of Justice product. Several of Trump's cabinet members are involved, although we don't know who, or at least I don't know who. And, Kash Patel said that, quote, the FBI has jettisoned all relationships with the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League because they contributed to this woeful violation of our constitutional rights. Really. And then there's this woman, Harmeet Dillon, who is Trump's appointee to head the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department. And she's used the FACE Act, again, this Protecting Access to Clinics Act, to charge anti-ICE protesters who showed up at a Minnesota church. She used this law to go after Don Lemon and the reporter that was with him, and has tried to keep them incarcerated until trial, in fact. So get ready. I'm telling you, this is coming. There's every election, there's like one major theme that the Republicans pick, and they just pound the hell out of it. It's like Willie Horton with George Herbert Walker Bush, or Morning in America with Ronald Reagan. We're gonna get better after Jimmy Carter wore a sweater and told us to turn down our thermostats, or George W. Bush with whatever he was. I don't even, George Bush's 2000 campaign was pathetic, frankly, but basically it was, you don't like Bill Clinton and you won't like Al Gore. And Trump, of course, hate on brown and black people. Meanwhile, Ed Markey, the senator from Massachusetts, has published an analysis of how much the average American motorist will pay in additional annual funds for gasoline this year as a result of Donald Trump going along with Benjamin Netanyahu. We know, and I thought it was really interesting, John Kerry was on MS Now yesterday and is being interviewed by Jen Psaki, as I recall. And he said that when he was in the Obama administration, he was Secretary of State in the Obama administration, that Netanyahu came over and did this whole kind of PowerPoint presentation, a 4-point presentation that was very similar to one that he had done for Bill Clinton and for George W. Bush. And he wanted Barack Obama to attack Iran. And if you attacked Iran, we can decapitate, we can kill all the senior leadership, there'll be instant regime change, the people will rise up, we can get a rational government, we'll bring back the Shah or whatever. And Obama said, you're nuts and I'm not going to do that. So, Netanyahu for years had been trying to find an American president who was frankly stupid enough to think that bombing Iran would be a nice, clean, easy, simple thing. And Netanyahu is quite desperate now because, his trial is restarting and if he doesn't stay, and he's got an election coming up this summer, and if he doesn't stay prime minister, he goes to prison in all probability. So anyhow, Ed Markey looked at what the cost of this war is going to be for the average motorist. And he concluded it's going to be around $1,100 a year. Isn't that sweet? And that's assuming gas prices just remain at $4.14 average. Here in Oregon, they're over $5. In California, in some places, they're over $6. I understand that there are parts of Alaska where they're over $7. Probably Hawaii, too. I don't know. But, instead of investing in energy independence, Trump has done everything he can to destroy our energy independence by cutting, killing off these wind programs and solar programs. He's paying this, Danish company, I believe, maybe Finnish, I think it's a Danish company, $1 billion to stop construction on a series of windmills off the east coast of the United States. He's shut down, hundreds of billions, I believe, tens of billions certainly, of dollars, federal dollars. We were going to have, 500,000 charging stations built across the United States for electric vehicles. That's gone. All this kind of stuff. So as Markey said, as Americans pay more at the pump, fossil fuel industry executives profit. During Trump's first year in office, the 5 largest companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, Shell, and BP, made more than $75 billion in profits. These companies spent $445 million, roughly $500 million, to elect Trump and other Republicans just in the last election, in the 2024 election. And he also points out that industry executives sold a reported $1.4 billion in their own company's shares during the war. In other words, because the price of their stock is in the stratosphere right now because they're making so much money. I mean, their costs, 99% of the oil or the gasoline and gasoline products, diesel products that are sold in the United States are from oil that was pumped in the United States. I'm not sure about the diesel. A lot of that might be coming from the tar sands oil. I'm not sure, but the gasoline certainly. So their costs to produce gasoline and to get the oil here in the United States have not gone up 1 penny. But the price that they can charge at the pump has exploded. Pew Research Center published the report this week finding that Americans' biggest concern around the Iran war was fuel costs, 69% concerned about the price of gas. Only 61% were concerned about sending ground troops. Only 59% were concerned about casualties among U.S. troops. And only 56% were concerned that all this might provoke a terror attack in the United States, which is the other thing that I think that Donald Trump is trying to provoke for the fall elections, is a terror attack. We've talked, he talked about this one day this week. It should probably be discussed every single day. I'm expecting a Reichstag fire on 9/11. There's a quiet health problem that damages your body every single day, and most people have no idea it's happening. High blood pressure. It's the #1 risk factor for mortality. Half of all adults, 1 in 2 people have it. 120 Life is a once-a-day functional drink made with ingredients that help support healthy blood pressure. It's not a pill, not a stimulant, not some trendy wellness gimmick, and it tastes great, it's refreshing, and it's made from a blend of superfruit juices. I have high blood pressure, and I love this drink. I literally use it every day. Over 1,000 health professionals have supported or endorsed its use. It's increasingly becoming a go-to natural tool in clinical settings, not just in wellness circles. Go to 120life.com, that's 120life.com, and use my code TOM, T-H-O-M, for 20% off. Try it risk-free for 2 weeks. If your blood pressure doesn't come down, you get a full refund. Just go to 120life, 120life.com, and use the code TOM, T-H-O-M, to save that 20%. And don't wait until next month. You got nothing to lose except your high blood pressure numbers. Go to 120life.com and use my code TOM for 20% off. Use that code TOM today. These statements have not been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.